welcome to Lunchtime Politics. First, the highlights. Nigeria Civil Society Situation Room report on the 2023 elections call for elimination of INEC recs, unbundling of commission, among others. Governor of Benue State orders investigation of ministries, departments and agencies in the state. Plateau State Governor reverses some civil servants' permanent secretaries' appointments made by his predecessor, Simon Lalong. Welcome to the program. I'm Minister Walker in Lagos. We kick off with proceedings at the Presidential Election Petitions Court in Abuja today, which resumed with the continuation of the hearing in the case of the presidential candidate of the People's Democratic Party, Atiku Abubakar, against INEC, the All Progressives Congress, and its presidential candidate, Bola Tinubu. Deputy Legal Advisor to the PDP and the Deputy Director, Legal Services, the All Progressives Congress, are representing the petitioner and the third respondent, the APC. Senior Advocate Chris Uche is leading the Atiku Abubakar legal team, while Mr. Akin Olujemi leading the Bola Tinubu APC legal team. The day's proceedings opened with the continuation of hearing, with the petitioner announcing more witnesses in the matter. And before it commenced, the president of the Court of Appeal walked into the courtroom, we understand, exchanged pleasantries with some of the senior lawyers before leaving. But at the start of examinations today, under cross-examination by counsel to INEC, the witness said that accreditation, voting and signing of results by her and the party agents went well. But that wasn't the case for uploading of results. She said that could not go through. We'll bring you more developments from the court as we get them. On to other stories now. The final report on the conduct of the 2023 general elections by the Nigeria Civil Society Situation Room is out. Presenting that report in Abuja yesterday, the convener of the group, Mrs. Enobi, asked INEC Chairman, Professor Mahmood Yakubu, to apologise over the elections, which she says was marred by irregularities. Here's more from our correspondent, Victor Matthias, in the report.
It is a room filled with international NGOs, donor partners, civil society organizations, election observers, development partners, as well as officials of the Independent National Electoral Commission. They have gathered at the behest of the Nigerian Civil Society Situation Room as the group presents its final report on observations during the 2023 general elections.
We're quite disappointed with what came out because we think we had the capacity to have done better. And we are still asking the INEC chairman to apologize to Nigerians because of the electoral issues. You know, because of technology. We demand for an apology because we asked the INEC chairman if the electoral process, if the technology will work. This election was about technology, but his technology was disappointing.
Other stakeholders also air their opinions on the wrongs the electoral umpire needs to right moving forward, albeit there is a dissenting voice to the group's overall stand.
One must explain to Nigerians why transmission of presidential election results face technical glitches. Every other result, senatorial, House of Rep, well, there were some modicum of transmission, but that one.
Training for observers is key, because for us to deliver, even as observers, we need to understand what the electoral process is. We saw observers on the field acting as monitors, not even understanding what they were supposed to do there.
For me, those parts of the report about apologizing to INEC and all of those things are the personal statements of those who it is not included in the report.
The electoral umpire, represented by the National Commissioner in charge of Information and Voter Education, Mr. Festus Okoye, admits there were challenges and wants Nigerians to look forward to better polls in the future.
There are a lot of positives from the election. There are also challenges from the election. Based on those challenges, we are going to look at the reports from domestic and international election observers. We're also going to look at reports from political parties. We're also going to look at reports from our own electoral officers, from collation officers and returning officers. And we are going to see whether there are issues and things that we can deal with administratively, and we deal with those ones. We can also see whether there are still issues that demand both legal and constitutional change or reform. Then we will go before the appropriate organ of government and deal with those ones.
Lessons have been learned, recommendations made, and reports presented. Nigerians will hope that these will be put in perspective when future elections are conducted. Victor Matthias, Channels Television News.
Well, for more on this, Mr. Paul James, Elections Program Manager with Yaga Africa, joins me virtually to talk more about this. Welcome to the program. I mean, do you agree in totality with the report presented? And that's also including that the INEC chairman should apologise to Nigerians over the conduct of the polls.
Yeah, thank you, Millicent, for this opportunity. So, to a large extent, that report tried to convey the feelings of the majority of Nigerians that engage in that electoral process. It wasn't just that event that happened yesterday at the Civil Society Situation Rules meeting. It also tried to gauge the perception of Nigerians about INEC's performance in the election. And it is sad to see that it has dropped from the rating that INEC had in 2019. In 2019, I think the rating was like about 69%, and now the rating was just under 40% about Nigerians that thought INEC did well from the election. And given the kind of expectations and the kind of assurances that the Commission had given Nigerians before the election, you expect nothing but better for the process. So I think it was in line that this call is made to INEC chair, at least to speak with Nigerians. This is 3 months since the election. I'm not sure there has been any formal engagement between INEC and Nigerians before, up to this moment. And we know how it's always been the case. INEC is always in a rush to go to the next phase of the process. And before you will know now, we'll start talking about the Imo, Bayelsa, and Kogi elections. So we thought it is important that the Commission do some sort of stock taking now, do some sort of reflection about the last election, and that the reflection should include stakeholders that were part of the process. And it shouldn't just be limited to just the election day engagement, but looking even from the build up to the process to the election day to ascertain what really happened. And then, like you have seen from the report yesterday, if there are people that we thought are culpable based on what we thought happened from the election, then these people should be punished. A question was asked, for instance, about electoral offenders, whether INEC had been able to pick up whether everybody had been prosecuted. The Commissioner for Information that was in the room could not even say categorically at the moment what is happening. He said this is before the Presidential Election Tribunal and wouldn't want to make any comment that is prejudiced. So we totally understand that, but we thought it is important that the Commission begin to speak to Nigerians what truly were the issues from that election and how do we remedify those challenges as we forge ahead to the next cycle of elections.
Indeed, and one of the remedies from that report was the effective legal framework for the establishment of the Electoral Offences Commission and Tribunal as well. But when we look at, you've talked about a number of things, and which also includes the post-election audits, and you hope that this should redeem INEC's image, because many have asked what exactly would that achieve. But I'd like to get your thoughts in terms of inclusiveness, perhaps some of the specific improvements that you think INEC must make. And this is in order to avoid the hiccups. In terms of future amendments to the Constitution, what should it be looking at?
Well, before the amendment to the Constitution, I think the biggest thing that we also thought was a challenge was the way INEC handled crisis management and also communication around the election. We thought it was very poor. So that's also an aspect that we thought the Commission must improve upon if we want to move for the future. If you go back to the communication from INEC from January even till this moment, the Commission has rather been reactive than proactive in its public communication. You don't seem to get a communication that's sort of to provide ideas or information about the direction for the Commission. All you keep seeing is the Commission reacting to what somebody has said or what had happened. But then to the question about what sort of constitutional alteration do we want to see, one of the points that was made was about the appointment of resident electoral commissioners. If we recall the last time, this was a big challenge. The timing of the recruitment appointment was a problem. And then even the character of some of these individuals that were appointed, some people raised concerns about that. One of the persons that was appointed, for instance, was someone that had contested election in Sokoto State in 2015. And people raised concerns. That person was nominated for Jigawa State, and we saw how citizens reacted. So if citizens don't have confidence in the sort of appointment that happened to the Commission, it will continue to affect this kind of confidence that citizens will have in the overall conduct of the election. So it is important that as part of the constitutional reform that we want to see, that we need to talk about who appoints who into the Commission. At the moment, it's the prerogative of the government. That the report yesterday is saying that a senior official now should be appointed from the Election Commission to sit as the commissioner for the state, so that this, if this is done, the Commission will then have control over the sort of behaviors or the sort of conduct of such officials. At the moment, as we know, because it is the president that appoints them, so they don't sort of rely back on the center in terms of control and also operations. You seem to have issues with seamless operations, especially in election administration.
And finally, there was also, you mentioned the recs, there was the suggestion of their elimination, but replacing them with state directors of elections. What's the difference between what you've explained now?
That was the suggestions from the civil society situation. Me, for one, the concern I have about the whole the whole structure of the appointment is that this is done by an individual and a partisan individual who will continue to do something that will be in the best interest of his or her party. So I thought if you go back to the Justice Uwais Committee report, for instance, of 2008, the suggestion was to have the judicial panel, the National Judicial Council to do such appointment. But perhaps we could have some independent committee that is made up of eminent Nigerians, just like we have the National Peace Committee, for instance. Get a committee that have individuals drawn from the different structures we have in the country, the CSOs, the media, the academia, and all of that, so that they make recommendations for 3 names that may have passed through public scrutiny to the president, and then from there, the president will nominate one of those names and then forward to the National Assembly for confirmation. Maybe it will reduce all of this indiscretion that we are seeing.
Mr. Paul James, Elections Programme Manager, YAGA Africa, thank you for throwing more light into that report as we look forward to the days ahead for elections and, of course, the laws. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you, Millicent. All the best.
Well, we'll move on. Yesterday, some leaders from the main opposition, People's Democratic Party, converged to meet with President Bola Tinubu at the State House. Present were the governors of Enugu and Akwa Ibom states, the G5, which is a group made up of the Oyo State governor and 4 former governors. Our State House correspondent, Gloria Muzoke, captured this report.
For the 3rd time, President Bola Tinubu meets with members of the PDP G5, otherwise known as the Integrity Group. However, this time around, it's the complete group made up of 4 former governors of Rivers, Enugu, Abia and Benue, led by Governor Seyi Makinde of Oyo State. In a chat, the G5 governors underlined their quest for equity.
We have to keep seeing the president, to let him know what is happening. And for this evening, the G5, the Integrity Group, we also came to let the president know what we stood for: fairness, justice, and equity. And we haven't changed.
The president also received the governor of Enugu State, Mr. Peter Mba. During the visit, the call for the release of the self-acclaimed leader of IPOB, Mr. Nnamdi Kanu, is rekindled.
We also, of course, talked about the release of Nnamdi Kanu. You know that the Southeast has made a collective demand to have Nnamdi Kanu released. And we basically identified with that and request Mr. President, who in his inaugural address promised the people that he's going to engender national healing and is going to serve with compassion. So we've basically informed him that this would serve as a pointer to his administration's extension of hands of fellowship to Ndi Igbo.
Several groups, including the Ohaneze Ndigbo Worldwide, had earlier appealed to former President Muhammadu Buhari to release the successionist agitator, especially after court judgments went in his favor. More governors of the People's Democratic Party were received in audience by the president, who appears to be crystallizing an alliance with the main opposition party. He receives governors of Plateau and Akwa Ibom states.
Politics is over and governance has started. The Calabar Itu Road, we will need the president to help us intervene and let's get that, finish the road. We talked about our Ibom deep sea port. We will need the president to also intervene and let's get the seaport. These are strategic partnerships that we want with the federal government. So I talked about it and he has promised to look into it, and I believe him.
In line with the president's directive, the Akwa Ibom State governor underscores that a number of measures will be put in place to support the people from the impact of the fuel subsidy removal. From the presidential villa, Gloria Umezuke, Channels Television News.
Well, staying with activities of the State House today, we understand that the President, Bola Tinubu, is right now holding the first meeting with representatives, traditional rulers, royal fathers from across 6 geopolitical zones from across the country at the State House Banquet Hall. The meeting, which is set to be part of President Tinubu's consultations with various stakeholders across the country, is expected to be discussing sundry issues, including how to achieve national healing and unify the country. Those in the meeting are the Vice President, Kashim Shettima, the Secretary to the Government of the Federation, Senator George Akume, the Sultan of Sokoto, the Oni of Ife, the Emir of Kano, the Obi of Onitsha, Tortiv, the Etsu Nupe, Deji of Akure, Shehu of Borno, Permanent Secretary as well, Legushi of Ikate, Jaja of Opobo, and others. Let's go on a break now. When we return, we have more stories from the Houses of Assembly across the country. Stay with us. Welcome back. The support base of the preferred choice for Speaker and Deputy Speaker of the House of Representatives, Mr. Tajuddin Abbas and Benjamin Kalu, has reportedly received more endorsements, this time from 106 out of 141 members-elect from Northwest and North Central geopolitical zones of the country. The communication advisor of the Tajuddin Ben Kalu campaign group made the announcement at a news conference in Abuja yesterday. The lawmaker-elect for Ideato North South Federal Constituency of Benue State explains that the group is working towards securing victory for Mr. Abbas and Mr. Kalu during the inauguration of the 10th Assembly.
I want to thank Mr. President for taking this initiative and bringing us together, almost blurring political lines. I served as a speaker for 4 years. From inception, I myself blurred political lines. And we governed, or we administered the House of Representatives with a motto from day one that nation building is a joint task. And it's that same motto that Mr. President is extending his hand of fellowship to all members, APC, PDP, Labour, APGA, SDP, name it. We're a coat of many colors. And what Mr. President seeks to do is to stitch those colors together into one big fabric that will, to the benefit of Nigerians who we represent.
Outgone Speaker and now Chief of Staff to the President. We'll move to other stories. The Governor of Kebbi State, Dr. Nasir Idris, has inaugurated the 10th State Assembly. In an official statement by the Governor's Special Assistant on Media, Yahya Seriki, the Clerk of the House, Suleiman Shamaki, read the proclamation of the Governor at the Chamber. Mr. Seriki told the members of the House that he was in receipt of the proclamation of the Governor to inaugurate the House. Meanwhile, members of the State House of Assembly unanimously elected Honourable Mohammed Usman from Zuru constituency as the new Speaker of the House. The motion to elect the new Speaker was raised by Honourable Adamu Mohammed Yauri, seconded by Honourable Mohammed Ogi, with no objections raised by members. Members also elected include Mohammed Samaila from Bagudu constituency as Deputy Speaker. After the inauguration ceremony, members of the Kebbi State House of Assembly paid a courtesy visit to the Kebbi State Governor in Benin Kebbi. Over to Benue, where the Governor, Hyacinth Alia, has ordered a probe into the finances of the Benue State University Teaching Service Board and the State Universal Basic Education Board for allegedly generating and spending revenue without recourse to the state's internally generated revenue law. The Governor gave the directive on one of his unscheduled visits to the headquarters of the Board of Internal Revenue Service in Makurdi, only to discover that most of the MDAs under the ministry did not comply with the law to pay their IGR. The Governor also paid a visit to the State Emergency Management Agency, where it noted that the warehouse was completely empty following complaints from IDPs that they had been abandoned.
The Benue State Governor, Reverend Father Hyacinth Alia, is on a mission to fix the major issues he seems to have inherited in the state's public service, a reason why he has sustained his unscheduled visits to government agencies to spot the challenges. During his visit to the State Emergency Management Agency premises, housing supplies for internally displaced persons who complain that they've been abandoned, he meets an empty warehouse. The Governor is dumbfounded about the conflicting claims here about the welfare for internally displaced persons.
I've received a lot of complaints from the IDPs. They are hungry, they can't afford any medications, so I needed to speak with the guy over there. He gave me a very different report, that even last month they were there. But what I've heard is different from what they are telling me. So we're holding a meeting this afternoon just to have a very comprehensive reportage on what transpires in there. And then I'll be able to say stuff on them.
Next is the visit to the State Board of Internal Revenue Service, where he gets to familiarize himself with some technological innovations to track the state's income. Done with his findings, the Governor orders a probe of MDAs not remitting their IGRs to the consolidated account, but spend almost 100% of their monies. Chairman of the board explains that this is the bane of the state's IGR and low FAC allocation.
The height, I expect the IGR to be shot up now, and it's not. There are lots of loopholes and perforations here and there at the border points. Last Sunday, I called for all illegal points, just to vanish overnight. They must get out of the way. We have about 16 BRS checkpoints, and those must be in place, and only those must be in place. So this is a government, and the government must function. And this is the only way it would.
There's a whole list of those who are not, and I'm going to get that across to His Excellency. Good enough, we have audited them, so we can tell you how much they are owing. And it's to be able to bring them into TaxNet, because the law is that all revenue must be consolidated before expenditure. But for these agencies, they collect and they spend immediately.
Currently, Benue State generates about 1.2 billion naira monthly without payee. However, salaries have not been paid in the last 6 months. Another situation the governor is determined to deal with once and for all.
Over to Plateau State, where the governor has directed that all civil servants and persons appointed as permanent secretaries from the month of January 2023 to date to revert to their previous positions. This and other measures were contained in a statement signed by Gang Bearer, the Director at Press Public Affairs, to the governor as part of measures to address the abuse of public service rules as well as non-adherence to due process, indiscriminate and irregular employment in the state and local government councils by the immediate past administration. It adds that all appointments into the state civil service made from the 1st October 2022 to date have been suspended with effect from the same date, subject to review in line with the due process, while all those who have retired but are yet to vacate their offices or duty posts, either by extension, contract, appointment, or to hand over any government property in their possession and vacate the offices immediately. Furthermore, civil servants due for retirement but are yet to tender their letters of retirement or notice of retirement are to do so and proceed on retirement immediately. Well, for the Benue State Governor, Babagana Zulum, he has directed the State Ministry of Health to investigate the incident of medical staff on duty at the Umaru Shehu ultra-modern hospital in Maiduguri, who has been accused of allegedly rejecting accident victims. The governor gave the directive yesterday at the Accident and Emergency Unit of the hospital. During his visit to the hospital, he says it was a response to a video clip that went viral on social media showing some medical officers allegedly rejecting accident victims brought to the hospital. He gave a 24-hour ultimatum for a probe team to identify the medical workers involved and recommend appropriate sanctions. He described the actions of the staff as inhuman and unacceptable, noting that the state government has invested heavily in the health sector, including the welfare of medical officers across the state, calling on them to provide quality healthcare services to all patients without discrimination. Well, that's our program this Friday. Thank you for watching. I'm Melissa Walker. Bye for now.